thank you for checking out the first episode of Why You Should Play This Week, my regular series here on YouTube that shows you games, new and old, that I've played and or purchased this week. There's a good chance you came here from TikTok. That's where I started Why You Should Play. I record a lot of footage to make those 1-minute videos, and it felt like a natural next step to expand to YouTube and bring Why You Should Play to more platforms. Because this is the first episode, some of these games are from the last few weeks. I had the extreme pleasure of discovering Ghostwire Tokyo on the PS5, which so far is my favorite game of 2022. A few weeks ago, I purchased an Xbox Series S and decided to dive into the Gears of War series, and I started to play the second game in the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It's been a busy few weeks, so let's get into it. So what are the things you think about when you hear Xbox? For me, first is the color green. That seems natural. But after that, I think of two series of games, Gears of War and Halo. Now, I played Halo a lot, especially Halo 1 through 3, but Gears of War was something I only dabbled with. There were periods of time where I didn't have an Xbox. I always went with Nintendo and Sony, and not because I don't enjoy the Xbox, but because, it's expensive owning games and consoles, and you only have so much time in the day to play games. So I never found good time to throw in, get an Xbox on launch day. But recently, I bought an Xbox Series S, and I wanted to dive into what the Xbox does best. So I decided to start with the Gears of War series. Now, what you're seeing here is Gears of War 3. And side note, I had no idea Ice-T was a character in Gears of War, which was pretty cool. This game, all the games, but especially 3, is when things really turned up for me. I absolutely love this series and these games. I went through 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back, and I didn't want to stop playing. 4 is actually another game I'm going to cover in this video. This game is over 10 years old. It has sold millions of copies and had near universal critical acclaim. This was pretty much the ending for Marcus Phoenix being the main character. We get a big gap in time between 3 and 4. One of the most fun things about these games is not the gameplay, it is the story. I absolutely love the world that they have built, and they answer questions but leave enough open to make this place seem large and expansive, and just so many places to go with the story. I am having a great time with the Gears series. I'm actually about halfway through Gears 5, and I want to move on to Gears Tactics, but that will be in another episode, because I've got a few other games I want to cover on this week. Moving on, we need to check out The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. This was released a little while back on multiple platforms, and it's a collection of 2 games that were previously never released in the West, Europe, or the US. So if you're not familiar, the Ace Attorney series is a series of games that are almost like visual novels, but with some detective work and some badass courtroom battles. We got most of the games in the West, but 2 games that were released on the Game Boy Advance. The Great Ace Attorney, which takes place in the past, specifically during the Victorian era in Japan and Britain. Your main character is actually a descendant of Phoenix Wright, but this goes so far back, I'm not even sure if I would call it a prequel. This game has the best production value so far. Every time we get a new title, we get better graphics, the characters are more expressive, the music in this game is particularly great, and each game can run you anywhere from like 20 to 35 hours. There is a lot that you get in this package. Now, I'm sure you're not used to seeing crossover between games like Gears of War third-person and first-person action games and visual novels. But for me, the theme that ties most of the games together that I play is story. This game is built on its story. Everything else is just a complement to it. You've got very complex characters, storylines that keep surprising you until the very end, and I'm absolutely enjoying this. Now, I played the first game and finished it about 4 months ago, and I stopped and I wanted to save the second game because I like to take breaks between games if they're really long. The first one took me like 30-something hours to finish, but the time came and I wanted to play it. Now, if you're not into reading a whole lot, I could understand why you'd be like, oh, these kind of games aren't any fun. But there are a lot of shorter visual novels that if you are at all into sci-fi or fantasy, there's some really great stuff out there. And you can actually get some of the Ace Attorney games on mobile. I have the first trilogy on my iPhone, actually, and I know some of them are available on Android too. I would seriously check these out if you're at all interested. The price point, especially now that it's been a long time since they've been released, is really cheap, and it's a nice afternoon or evening read. It's a little bit silly, it's a little bit serious, you get emotionally attached to these characters, and you hate to see the credits roll. So definitely take a look at this game if you're looking for something that has a bit of story and a bit of heart to it. There is so much to say about Ghostwire Tokyo. I will say though, I loved this game so much. My first official feature that I'm going to be doing here on Why You Should Play is going to be about this game. I'll have that done probably in the next week or so. So let me give you a little bit of an idea of how I decide if a game is worth buying. So initially, it's just I go by my instincts. Do I like that type of game? Do I like the developer? Does it look cool? What type of game it is? You know, basic stuff. And then if it passes all that, and I'm seriously considering getting it day one, I will look at reviews. Now, I don't pay that much attention to the actual reviews. I just check out things like Metacritic. Because the most interesting games I've ever played are the ones that have multiple different scores. We're talking perfect score down to a 40. You can tell a lot of a game by looking at its Metacritic or any type of cumulative score review. If it has a bunch of reviews, like over 100 reviews with 90 or above scores, I mean, it's probably a good game, but it also had a massive marketing budget. Sometimes games will have a lot less, and it's good to pay attention to those scores in the middle. This game was rated all over the place, and I think you need to have a specific kind of taste. I love games like Yakuza and The World Ends With You, and they all take place in the same area in Tokyo, Shibuya. So, it seemed like a natural fit. It was on sale, I decided to pick it up, but this game was not what I thought it was going to be. None of the marketing materials I saw or the press releases before the game was released indicated to me that this was an open world, mystical game where you play basically an exorcist ninja. If they just said that term in the marketing materials, I'd have bought it day one. I played this game straight for 5 days, putting in almost 42 hours, and I've still got some side stuff I want to go back and do. This game consumed everything. As you can see, the game is in first person. You play Akito, a guy who was in a car wreck and then gets possessed by a spirit named KK. Now, KK thought you were dead. You're not dead, so now you're both occupying the same body, and you each have your own goal, which requires you to explore Shibuya. Completely empty Shibuya. There's been an event that has caused everybody to disappear. You need to figure out why this happened, how you can fix it, and reach each other's goals. And the side missions, the story, everything just comes together well. Now, I could see why this game might not be for everybody. But I think if you thought this was interesting and haven't taken the plunge yet, absolutely do so. Ghostwire Tokyo is going to be on my top 10 list of games for 2022 by the end of the year. I'm predicting that right now because I had so much fun with it. This game is going to stay on my PlayStation 5 hard drive for a very long time. Continuing my exploration of all things Xbox, after I purchased my Xbox Series S, I was really excited to play Gears 4. This was a generation jump. Gears 3 was on the 360, and then this one was on the Xbox One. And the Xbox Series S gives these games a little bit of a boost. So I was really excited to play this, and I was not let down at all. This game was fantastic. I had a hard time deciding which game I was going to end this first episode with. It felt like it would be kind of like a headliner at a concert. The last game is the one you're waiting to hear about. Maybe this wasn't everybody's favorite choice, but it was mine because I had so much fun with this game. Now, the developer, the Coalition, was specifically created to carry on the Gears of War franchise, and they have done a fantastic job. They didn't have to do much with the gameplay, at least, because the gameplay is damn near perfect for an action game. The cover system is still one of the best in any action game ever. The reloading system, the way everything just feels, since Gears 1, this has been kind of the gold standard for me when it comes to action gameplay. Now, Gears 4 picks up 25 years later after the ending of 3. You begin the game with some characters you don't recognize at all. You have some suspicions, but they play with the plot like this a little bit to keep you guessing, and it keeps you invested. You really want to keep going and find out, who is this person? What happened in that big time gap? Where are they? What are these weird storms? There's all kinds of stuff that is so much fun when you're playing this game and you're invested in it. I would highly recommend that you play the first 3 games before you play this one, because while you could, and you would still have a ton of fun, you will get so much more out of Gears of War 4 if you've played 1 through 3. Playing the Gears of War series over these past couple of weeks has been an incredible ride. Why You Should Play is not just focused on big budget games, though. In fact, I started doing this kind of content creation to focus on indie games, so there will be quite a bit of that. The best way for you to experience these games is to get Xbox Game Pass. Every single Gears game is on there and will always be there. So if you get a chance, you have an Xbox, or you're able to access Game Pass, definitely check these games out. I got a lot more coming. I've got a new feature on Ghostwire Tokyo coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll be doing a new episode of Why You Should Play this week soon, and I'll be doing some indie game features. So please help me support this channel. Like, subscribe, tap follow. I'm on TikTok. I post every day there at Why You Should Play Again. Thank you so much if you watched this far in the video. Take care of each other, gamers. I'll see you soon.